Lily Parker pulled the paper dropcloth tight across the raw floorboards and checked the afternoon light pouring through the tall windows of the old brick storefront on Eni, Alberta. At 29, she was a Seattle-trained interior designer with a practical streak and gentle eyes. Shoulder-length chestnut hair was twisted into a clip, and her work clothes, black jeans dusted with saw powder, a denim shirt rolled at the sleeves, told the truth of a month spent living on coffee and stubbornness. She had come home to Portland for one reason: to help her father open the restaurant he'd dreamed about since she was a kid, listening to the rattle of sauté pans after his late shifts. The hand-painted sign leaning against the wall read, "The Redwood Table." It wasn't mounted yet, and that felt right. First came the bones. David Parker stepped through the door balancing a crate of copper pans. 57. Tall and wiry from decades on the line, he wore a faded navy chef jacket, scuffed clogs, and the quiet patience of a man who'd earned 1,000 burns, and kept going. He'd worked other people's kitchens all his life, from food trucks to hotel banquets, and now the lease was in his name. "Smells like new beginnings," he said, then laughed because new beginnings smelled a lot like mineral spirits and lemon oil. "You sure about the walnut booths?" "They'll warm the room," Lily said, kneeling to tape a chalk outline where the banquettes would hug the brick. "And they'll photograph beautifully during golden hour." She tried to sound casual about the last part. Photographs mattered. First impressions would live online, before a single fork touched a plate. The door chimed again, and Vanessa breezed in with a tote bag and a cloud of citrus perfume. 36. With glossy dark hair and a curated wardrobe, she had pivoted from boutique PR to marriage with David 9 months earlier. Today she wore cream slacks, a silk blouse the color of champagne, and slender gold hoops that flashed when she turned her head. "I brought mood boards," she announced, sliding a folder onto a paint-splattered sawhorse. "Think California casual with a high-gloss twist. The magazine editor I know loves that look." Lily smiled politely. "We're building Northwest comfort with craftsmanship," she said softly. "The food is Dad's story, not a trend." "Trends get people in the door," Vanessa replied, as if declaring a law of physics. Her smile was warm, on the surface. Before tension thickened, Ethan Carter strode in, carrying a beat-up camera bag and 2 iced coffees. He was 30, a freelance photographer with a soft scruff and steady posture honed from years of balancing tripods in rainstorms. Born to a mechanic and a school librarian in Salem, he'd learned to see light where other people saw gray. Today, he wore a charcoal tee, olive jacket, and boots that looked ready for another mile. "Bribery," he said, handing Lily the stronger cup. "Also, the afternoon sun slants like a postcard. We should test a few feature shots for the website." "Later," Lily said, though her eyes brightened. "First I need to finalize the bar face." She unrolled a sketch, slatted walnut with a brass footrail, a matte black shelf grid framing the bottles like little stained glass windows. A bearded craftsman ducked in behind Ethan, wiping his palms on work pants. "Miguel Alvarez," he said, nodding to David and Lily. 45, second-generation woodworker out of Hillsboro. Miguel had hands that could coax a story out of a plank. "Your slab's ready to finish," he said softly. "That walnut took oil like it's been waiting for this room." David ran his fingers along the mock-up edge and exhaled, a rare softness slipping through his chef's briskness. "Feels like us," he said quietly. Vanessa tapped her phone. "I can pitch a chef's love letter to the Northwest angle," she offered, "but we'll need consistent branding. If I handle press, it'll be seamless." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Press follows truth," he said. "The space should show what really happened here." "Which is?" Vanessa asked lightly. "Long nights and real hands," Ethan replied, gesturing to Lily's chalk-streaked knees and Miguel's oil-dark fingertips. Lily crouched again, drawing the final booth arc, then stood and faced her father. "I'll cover the deposit for the lighting fixtures," she said. "The artisan down in Selwood will give us hand-blown glass if we confirm by Friday." David shook his head slowly. "You shouldn't keep paying for things." "It's an investment," she answered, voice steady. "In you." He opened his mouth, closed it, then nodded with a grateful, complicated smile. Vanessa clapped softly. "We'll pay it back when the reservations roll in," she said brightly. "I'll schedule a soft opening list. Influencers, local editors. I'll make us a splash." Ethan lifted his camera and fired a test frame, Lily's pale chalk line cutting through late-day light, David's copper pans catching a warm flare, Miguel's thumb pressed to walnut grain, Vanessa's gold hoop bright as a coin. Lily felt the shutter click like a promise. She imagined the booths filled, rain ghosting the windows, her father laughing behind the pass. She imagined people arriving because the room itself told them to stay. She didn't need her name on a plaque. She needed the work to live. Outside, a street musician began a mellow guitar run. Inside, Lily circled the chalk and said softly, "Okay, let's build it." By early spring, the redwood table was nearly ready. The smell of varnish still lingered in the air as Lily Parker stood on a ladder, hanging the final pendant light. Sunlight spilled through, the big front windows catching in the glass globes like captured fire. Her hands ached, but it was the satisfying ache of completion. Every inch of the restaurant carried her fingerprints, the rustic copper bar, the moss-green banquettes, the pressed fern wall art she'd made herself. Her father had spent the morning testing the new range in the kitchen, humming along to an old blues record. Vanessa had spent it posing with a photographer from local taste. That photographer, a thin man named Chase Bloom, mid-30s, dressed in slim chinos and a scarf that looked too expensive for the drizzle outside, circled the room, clicking his camera. "Hold that smile, Vanessa," he said. "Perfect. You glow like the heart of this place." Vanessa laughed softly, leaning against the bar, hair arranged to look effortlessly tousled. Lily watched from the back of the room, a faint frown tugging at her lips. She hadn't been told there would be a shoot today. After they left, David returned from the kitchen, wiping his hands. "Hey, kiddo, that fixture looks amazing. We'll have the final inspection tomorrow. You should be proud." He didn't notice the tightness in her smile. That night, as Lily and Ethan organized photos for the website, she saw an article already posted online. Chef David Parker's wife leads bold design for Portland's new culinary gem. The headline stabbed like a splinter. Vanessa's photo filled the screen, her quote beneath it. "I wanted something that reflected David's warmth and creativity." Ethan set down his camera bag. "She's taking credit for your work." Lily rubbed her temples. "She's just talking for publicity. Dad doesn't care who says what. He just wants the place full." "Yeah, but don't you?" Ethan asked quietly. She didn't answer. Over the next few days, calls started coming in, interviews, media inquiries, all addressed to Vanessa. She started introducing herself as creative director of the Redwood Table. Every time she said it, Lily's chest grew tighter. Miguel the carpenter noticed. "You built this, chica," he told her one night as they polished the bar. "But sometimes, truth takes a while to find a microphone." Meanwhile, Ethan faced his own conflict. A photography studio in San Francisco offered him a year-long contract shooting luxury interiors. It was the break he'd been chasing, but he couldn't bring himself to leave with Lily drowning under someone else's spotlight. "You should take it," she said when he told her. "You earned it." "And you?" "I'll be fine. I just want Dad happy." "You keep saying that like it's supposed to be enough," he replied softly. She looked away, the silence between them filled with the hum of the refrigerator and rain tapping the windows. One evening, Vanessa burst into the dining room carrying 2 garment bags. The pressy event is Friday, she said brightly. David, darling, your chef coat is tailored. And Lily, I got you something too. She handed over a pale beige dress, elegant but utterly wrong for Lily's paint-spattered hands and easy jeans. We'll match on stage, Vanessa smiled. I'm not going on stage, Lily said, confused. Oh, don't be modest. You'll introduce the chef, and I'll handle the talking points. Vanessa's tone made it sound like a decree. Friday arrived. The restaurant gleamed, candles glowing on each table. Local critics, food bloggers, and TV hosts mingled, wine glasses catching the light. Vanessa moved through the crowd like she owned the room, laughing, gesturing toward details Lily had designed. David looked proud, oblivious to the shifting undercurrents. When Vanessa clinked her glass for attention, Lily stood in the corner near Ethan, heart pounding. To the redwood table, Vanessa began, to my husband's dream, and to everyone who helped make my vision real. Applause erupted, cameras flashed, Ethan's voice was low but sharp. Her vision? Not now, Lily whispered, jaw tight. When the evening ended, David wrapped an arm around Vanessa, thanking her for all she's done. Lily smiled faintly and slipped outside. The night air smelled of cedar and city rain. Behind her, the crowd cheered for a dream no one knew she had built. Ethan joined her, umbrella tilted against the drizzle. You deserve better than silence, he said. She exhaled softly. Sometimes silence keeps peace. He studied her a long moment, then said quietly, Peace shouldn't cost your name. She didn't answer, only watched the reflections in the wet pavement, the restaurant glowing behind the glass, her father laughing under bright lights, Vanessa soaking in praise that wasn't hers. The morning of the grand opening was cold and bright, sunlight glancing off the damp pavement as Lily Parker arrived early at the redwood table. Her breath fogged in the air as she unlocked the door, stepping into the warm glow of polished wood and fresh flowers. The restaurant looked perfect, every napkin folded, every candle waiting for dusk. She ran her fingers along the edge of the walnut bar, remembering the night she and Miguel sanded it smooth by hand. It felt alive now, humming with quiet pride. David Parker emerged from the kitchen, his chef jacket crisp and spotless. Full reservations tonight, he said with a grin. People are excited, Lil. He looked 10 years younger, exhaustion replaced by pure anticipation. Couldn't have done this without Vanessa, he added absent-mindedly. The words stung more than he realized. Lily forced a smile and nodded. Yeah, she's something. By noon, the restaurant buzzed with staff setting tables and testing lights. Vanessa arrived in a tailored emerald dress, her hair pinned in glossy curls. On her arm was Heather Marsh, a local event coordinator in her early 40s, petite and professional, wearing all black and holding a clipboard like a shield. Heather's handling press placement, Vanessa announced. We want the photographers right by the bar. It's our signature spot. She gestured gracefully, as though she had designed every inch of it herself. Lily stayed near the kitchen, double-checking seating charts and cue cards. When Ethan came in through the side door, camera slung across his shoulder, he paused, taking in the transformation. It's beautiful, he said softly. You did it. She smiled faintly. We did it. He hesitated. She's planning to talk first tonight. You know that, right? Lily exhaled. Let her. It's Dad's night, not mine. By evening, guests arrived in waves. Food critics, family friends, local influencers snapping photos. The smell of roasted rosemary chicken drifted from the kitchen, mingling with jazz from the small band in the corner. The golden sign above the bar gleamed like a promise. When the applause died down after the first course, Vanessa took the microphone. Good evening, everyone, she began, voice smooth and practiced. It's an honor to welcome you to the Redwood Table, a place born from love, dedication, and a little vision of mine." She laughed lightly. "When David and I dreamed of this space, I wanted it to feel like the Northwest itself, warm, grounded, yet sophisticated." Cameras flashed. Lily froze. "A little vision of mine." David chuckled beside her, nodding, unaware of the knife those words carried. "She's a natural speaker," someone whispered nearby. Lily stared at her hands, the faint paint stains still clinging to her nails, proof of the work no one saw. Ethan caught her gaze from across the room, jaw tight. Vanessa continued, thanking sponsors and guests, pausing only to throw in anecdotes that weren't hers. "We spent weeks perfecting this layout," she said, gesturing toward the lighting Lily had chosen. "I knew the moment I saw the walnut. It was the soul of the room." The crowd clapped again. David stepped forward to speak next, and Lily's chest tightened. Her father's voice trembled with emotion. "Vanessa, you've been my rock through all this. You believed when I couldn't. Thank you for giving my dream shape." The room erupted in applause. Glasses clinked. Photographers swarmed. Lily turned away, blinking fast. Ethan moved toward her, but she lifted a hand. "Don't," she whispered. Her throat burned. She slipped out the side door into the cool night air, leaning against the brick wall. A moment later, Miguel stepped out, wiping his hands. "You okay, Chica?" he asked softly. "Yeah," she lied. He looked at her kindly. "People forget who builds things, but the work remembers." Across the street, Ethan appeared, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You skipped the toast," he said gently. "They're doing dessert." "I couldn't breathe in there," she admitted. He nodded, then handed her the cup. "For what it's worth, everyone who matters knows you did this." She smiled faintly. "You mean you and Miguel?" "Hey, that's at least 2 honest witnesses." They both laughed quietly, the kind that carries more sadness than humor. Through the window, she saw her father hugging Vanessa as a reporter snapped another photo. Lily sighed. "Maybe this is how it's supposed to be. He's happy." Ethan shook his head. "He's blind, and she's writing over your story while you stand in the margins." But Lily didn't answer. She watched the guests raise their glasses inside, the reflection of the candlelight flickering in her eyes. She thought of every night she'd stayed past midnight, sanding, wiring, cleaning, every moment done in silence, believing the truth would speak for itself someday. That night, when the doors finally closed, Vanessa thanked the staff and swept her shawl over her shoulders. "Tonight was perfection," she said to Lily, smiling sweetly. "You make a great assistant." Lily froze for half a heartbeat. "Assistant?" she repeated softly. "Of course. I couldn't have done it without your help." Vanessa turned away before Lily could respond. Ethan's voice came low behind her. "You can't keep letting her erase you." Lily looked at the dark windows reflecting her tired face and whispered, "I just need to figure out how to be seen, without breaking everything." Days after the grand opening, the city hummed with praise for the Redwood Table. Articles flooded social media. "Chef's wife brings design brilliance to Portland's hottest new restaurant." Each headline seemed to echo in Lily Parker's chest. She read them at night in her apartment above a small florist shop downtown, surrounded by sketches and fabric swatches now collecting dust. The applause wasn't for her. It was for the woman who had stolen her work and worn it like a gown. David Parker barely came up for air, his time swallowed by interviews, reservations, and reporters who all asked about Vanessa's creative direction. Lily tried to be happy for him, but the silence between them deepened. Every time she visited, Vanessa was there first, answering calls, arranging photo shoots, filling the space with her laughter. "You know, Lily," Vanessa said one afternoon, standing by the bar Lily had built. Sometimes it's not about who does the work. It's about who can sell it. Her tone was syrupy, but the message was steel. Lily walked away before she said something she'd regret. That night, she met Ethan at a quiet cafe on Division Street. He sat across from her, the light from the hanging bulbs drawing soft shadows over his tired face. "She's rewriting the truth," he said flatly. "And your dad's letting her." Lily stirred her coffee without looking up. "He's in love. Love blinds good men. Love shouldn't erase good daughters." His voice cracked on the last word. He opened his bag and pulled out his camera. "You remember when I shot progress photos during construction? I have timestamps, files, everything. You're in every frame. You designed every corner. If you want proof, it's all right here." Lily hesitated. "You kept all that?" "I keep what matters," he said quietly. But Lily wasn't ready to confront the storm yet. She needed her father to see the truth himself, not through a fight, but through evidence that couldn't be denied. Ethan agreed to help. Together, they printed a small portfolio. Photos of Lily working late, invoices signed in her name, emails confirming design decisions. "If we do this," Ethan warned, "it'll hit hard. No going back." Lily nodded. "I don't want revenge. I just want honesty." 2 nights later, David found a flash drive left on his office desk. On it were folders labeled Redwood Design Phase 1, Invoices, Progress Photos. At first he thought they were Vanessa's, but when he opened the first image, his breath caught. There was Lily, up on a ladder, laughing under a halo of dust as she painted the front wall. Another file showed her blueprint sketches, her initials in pencil. Each image carried timestamps from months before Vanessa's involvement. Confusion tightened his chest. He scrolled through emails, contracts signed L. Parker, notes to suppliers, lists of design materials purchased with Lily's personal credit card. Slowly, a heavy truth began to settle. He replayed Vanessa's interviews in his mind, her easy charm, her quick deflections. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat in the empty restaurant, the dim pendant lights glowing over the bar, every corner whispering of his daughter's touch. By dawn, he had made up his mind. The next evening, the Redwood table hosted its 1-month anniversary celebration, a private dinner for friends, investors, and press. Vanessa glided across the room in a deep red gown, confident and radiant. She didn't notice her husband's silence as she greeted the crowd. Ethan and Lily stood near the back, hidden among the guests. When it came time for speeches, David took the microphone. "Tonight marks 1 month since this dream opened its doors," he began. The room quieted. "I've heard a lot about vision, leadership, and design, and I've realized something important. The truth doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it builds quietly in the dark until it's undeniable." He turned toward Lily. "My daughter, Lily Parker, is the reason this place exists. Every table, every wall, every line of light, her hands built it." A stunned silence fell. Cameras clicked. Vanessa's smile froze. "David," she stammered, "I think there's been some confusion." But David lifted a folder of printed photos and invoices. "No confusion," he said evenly. "Just overdue credit." Ethan stepped forward and connected his camera to the projector. The wall behind them lit up with images, Lily hanging lights, sketching layouts, sanding the bar with Miguel. Gasps filled the room. Even the journalists exchanged uneasy glances. Vanessa tried to speak, but David's voice cut through the tension. "You let me believe a lie. You took my daughter's light and called it your own." He set the microphone down, his disappointment louder than anger. Lily stood frozen as applause slowly began, first from Miguel, then from the staff, then from the crowd who realized the truth. Ethan caught her eye and smiled softly. "Told you," he mouthed. "Truth finds its microphone." Vanessa, pale and trembling, turned and walked out. Cameras followed. David stepped off the stage and pulled his daughter into a long, trembling hug. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "for not seeing." Lily pressed her face against his shoulder. "Now you do," she said quietly. The morning after the revelation, Portland's drizzle returned, soft and cleansing. Headlines flashed across local feeds. The real architect behind the redwood table, chef's daughter's work exposed after stepmom's lie. Lily Parker read none of them. She stood outside the restaurant instead, coffee in hand, watching the raindrops trace slow lines down the windows she had polished 100 times before. The redwood table looked different now, not because the decor had changed, but because, for the first time, it truly belonged to her and her father. Inside, the air smelled of roasted beans and lemon oil. David Parker moved behind the counter, sleeves rolled up, his usual calm returning bit by bit. "Health inspector's coming this week," he said, glancing at his daughter. "We'll pass easy, thanks to your design." Lily smiled. "That's the first time you've said your design?" He wiped his hands on a towel and sighed. "I should have said it a long time ago. I thought love meant trust. I didn't realize it could mean blindness, too." She touched his arm gently. "You see now. That's what matters." A soft knock interrupted them. Ethan Carter stepped in, raindrops still on his jacket, a camera slung loosely at his side. "You two made the morning news," he said, setting a folded paper on the counter. "Front page. Vanessa's PR firm released a statement. She's taking a break from public work." David nodded grimly. "She called last night. I didn't answer." Ethan hesitated. "You okay with that?" Sometimes silence is the only answer that means something. Lily poured him a cup of coffee. "So, what now? You heading to San Francisco?" she asked, though the question tasted like loss. He smiled faintly. "Actually, no. Turn that down." She blinked. "You what?" "I realized I was already shooting my favorite project right here." His gaze drifted around the restaurant. "I want to open a small studio in town. Maybe focus on people who build things quietly, like you." She laughed softly. "That's either the sweetest or the most stubborn thing you've ever said." "Probably both." Miguel entered next, carrying a tool bag and his usual grin. "You didn't think I'd let you two fix that shelf alone, did you?" he said. Behind him came a young woman, Clara Nguyen, mid-20s, an architecture student with kind eyes and an oversized raincoat. "My apprentice," Miguel explained proudly. "She wanted to see where real craftsmanship lives." Lily shook Clara's hand. "Welcome to the madness." Clara smiled shyly. "I saw the news. You're the reason I want to build places that feel alive, not just look pretty." The compliment hit Lily harder than expected. She felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the coffee. Later that afternoon, a small crowd began to gather outside the restaurant. Customers, new and old, had come not for the gossip, but for the food, for the warmth of the space that seemed to glow even under gray skies. David stepped into the kitchen, sliding into his rhythm with renewed energy, while Lily adjusted the lights and greeted the first diners. Every smile felt like a quiet vindication. As evening settled, she stepped outside to catch her breath. Ethan followed, handing her his camera. "Look," he said softly. The preview screen showed a photo he'd just taken. Lily standing beneath the sign of the redwood table, golden light framing her face as customers streamed in behind her. She stared at it for a moment. "It doesn't even look like me." It's the version of you that finally believes she deserves to be seen. Inside, laughter filled the air, her father's, Miguel's, the clatter of dishes and glasses. For the first time in months, the restaurant didn't feel like a battlefield of pride, but a home built on truth. As the last guests left that night, David poured 3 glasses of wine, one for himself, one for Lily, one for Ethan. To the builders, he said. Lily lifted her glass. To honesty, Ethan added quietly. And to second chances. Their glasses touched with a soft clink, echoing through the quiet room. Outside, the rain had stopped. The neon sign glowed against the wet street. The redwood table. Beneath it, their reflections shimmered together in the puddles, a father, a daughter, and a friend who'd stayed. Lily looked up at the sign and smiled. We did it, she whispered. Ethan took her hand, fingers warm against hers. Yeah, he said, and this time, everyone knows who you are.